All right, Dalton, we already went over the top teams in EA College Football 25. They just revealed the top 100 players in the video games coming out very, very soon. So we're going to do a live reaction, Dalton, to the top 100 players, go over some guys maybe who are underrated, some guys who are a little bit overrated, and some guys that we think that are properly rated as well. So let's look at the top 10 players that we have in EA College Football 25 right now. That's a list right there of the top 10. Dalton, what stands out to you in that top 10 list right there?
It's a really talented group, and I think it's sometimes not at the most premium positions, right? We have a couple of safeties in here. We've got some O-line and D-line working in here. Like, running backs are making a comeback. We've talked about a lot this running back class. We've got two of them in the top 10, but I'll tell you what, I think any of probably those first 8 guys, you could make an argument being number one. I think, last year, let's just take last year's draft class and last year's talent, all quarterbacks and receivers and all the flashy stuff. I think you've got a really good depth of talent still in this year's college football group, man. And I think at positions that we didn't have last year, when I look at Ollie Gordon and Quinshon Judkins, and there's going to be several other backs as we go through the top 100, you got some positions I think having a renaissance, especially at running back and safety. But those top 8 guys, especially right there, are as talented as anybody in the country.
Yeah, honestly, and the one thing I'll say right now that I love, so the 3 highest rated players are Will Johnson, Will Campbell, and Ollie Gordon. They're all tied at 96 overall. I freaking love that the highest rated players are 96 overall, because Madden, for example, gives out 99s like they're candy, Dalton. Like, there's like 8 players who are 99 overall every year in Madden. I think the 99 overall should only be reserved for like all-time great players, like truly generational talents. And I think it's smart that like the highest rated players this year are around a 96, like still elite players, obviously. But I really hate that, we're kind of diminishing the value of a 99 overall with all these guys in other video games. I love the fact that the EA College Football 25 video game is saying, hey, listen, there aren't generational guys. There isn't, a Brock Bowers or someone like that this year in college football. I love the fact that the guys that are highest rated right now are only a 96 overall and not, 4 99 overalls that we usually get in other video games.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you're talking about, you would be talking about guys like a Joe Burrow or maybe a Caleb Williams or guys like that. And there's several guys here, I think, by the end of the year who could get there, right? Like, you could get there with a Will Johnson. You could get there with a James Pierce Jr. or even a Travis Hunter, right? The two-way thing. If Travis Hunter had that Heisman type of season that we could be talking about with the two-way thing, there's probably any of those 7 or 8 guys could get there for sure. But I'm with you. I like having them not all the way there at the beginning of the season. Actually gives them something to strive for, right? Don't get the ego going too early. Oh, I'm a 99. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of guys who could get there, and they just have to bridge that gap. And I think that's really representative of this class. We have a handful of guys like Johnson and Campbell who've done it for 2 years, but we have a lot of guys who we've seen one explosive year out of, right? Ollie Gordon, James Pierce Jr., Caleb Downs, even Travis Hunter at the FBS level. Like, we've seen, I think, except for very special exceptions, probably Joe Burrow's one huge year at LSU, but he was decent the year before, just not as explosive as he was the second year. I think 2 years of data should really go into that before you get to a 99.
So I actually had someone on Twitter ask me, because I tweeted out how much I loved that the 99s weren't included in this game. And someone asked me, okay, over the last 5 years, who would have gotten a 99 for you? And I'm going to give you my list real quick, Dalton. I want to see if you disagree with it at all. I said Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers, Penei Sewell, and Quinnen Williams were my guys that I would have given a 99 overall in the video game. And just for reference, the guys who I thought were really close, Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, Aiden Hutchinson, Bijan Robinson, Blake Corum even, Will Anderson Jr., Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Jalen Carter, Joe Alt, and Pat Surtain were the guys that were just outside the 99 overall. But just to recap real quick, Joe Burrow, Chase Young, Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers, Penei Sewell, Quinnen Williams. Anything you disagree with in the guys that you would have gotten a 99 overall over the last 5 years or so?
I think those first 3 guys you mentioned were Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, and Bijan Robinson. I would probably put all those 3 in.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, again, I love the fact that we're reserving it, right? It should be a special thing for a guy to be 99 overall and not a guy that, it shouldn't just be the top 5 highest rated players every year. That should not be the case. We should be able to look back year over year and say, oh, okay, so you can compare years. This guy as a 99 overall compared to past years. But all right, Dalton, the rest of the top 100, you can see Eli is going over it right now. Anything sticks out in that top 100? I think there's a few guys that I think were pretty underrated in the top 100. But overall, dude, I'm going to be honest. I had a lot more gripes with the team rankings for EA. They did a pretty solid job with this top 100, man. There are a lot of PFF darlings in here that I love, like Ariante Ursary, the tackle from Minnesota, who not a lot of people know about, but he's a very, very highly rated player in this game. So I think EA did a pretty damn good job, man, with this top 100.
I think rolling through it, the first guy I see, and I know he's really one of our guys, and we're going to talk about him a lot, is Ashton Ginty. He's at 44 here with a 91 overall. I would have him in the top 20. There's a couple of backs here that I would probably take him over. We've talked about Travion Henderson. I think I saw ahead of him. I have to go back to this first page here and see. Maybe I'd probably take Ginty over. And Jay Knott's really, really good. Love him too. But Ashton Ginty, I think, is probably a top 20 player for me. I think he's got an argument to be the best back in the country when you consider his dual threat ability. It's probably a little bit of, okay, he goes to Boise State, but I'm telling you, last year you watched this guy against Washington, who was a national runner-up, and UCLA, who had a great defense. Ginty is the first one, and not just because he's our guy, but the dual threat ability of him. If he was on a Power 5 team, I guarantee you he'd be in the top 15 to 20.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to go over a couple Purdue guys that are very, very, or not, excuse me, one Purdue guy, one former Purdue guy that are very, very low in this list that should be a lot higher. Nick Scorton is the 88th best player in the game, Dalton. He's a 90 overall. That should not be the case. He should be a lot higher than that. And, of course, our guy, Dylan Thieneman, unsurprisingly, is the 83rd best player at a 90 overall as well. So those are a couple guys, Dalton, that I saw on the first page, and I was like, man, they should be a lot. Especially Thieneman, I wasn't surprised by, considering he's kind of a darling of us, and he's still underrated. But Scorton kind of surprised me, having him as the 88th best player, and even behind guys like Patrick Payton, too. I think Scorton's proven a lot more than Payton has so far. So, I don't know. That one kind of surprised me. I think he'll rise that list a lot by the season over. I probably have him as a top 20, 25 player, honestly, in the game.
I agree. I think, and we both believe, with a little more fine tuning, he's going to be a first round pick next year. I'm with you on that. Couple of guys I really like in this top. Is Caden Salter in the top 100, or was he just a top 10 quarterback?
No, he's in the top 100. Yeah, we only know the top. I kind
of like having the two Liberty guys. You've got Caden Salter in here. I can't find his exact number, and then you've got there he is. Caden Salter's at 90, and his running back Quentin Cooley at 100. I kind of like getting the two big Liberty names in here in the top 100. The other one I have to like too. How about our guy Kobe Bryant getting in the top 75 down here, huh?
Hell yeah, my guy, dude. Love it.
Gotta love that. Number 75.
You know he's pissed about it too. You know.
Oh he's sure, like, he's trying to get in the top 10. Absolutely, he's trying to lead the country of picks this year and get in the top 10. But I gotta love him getting in the top 75, and with some of these names like Jabbar Muhammad, and here's Ricardo Hallman, and I mean, you got you know what? The more I look at this class of corners, I mean, it's a crazy talented class. When I see a guy like even Sicario Davis at 34, I'm like, tell you what, by the end of the year, he may be in the top 15 just for his athletic ability and everything he can do, man. It's a crazy class of corners, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at the top 10 again, Dalton. Like, I actually put out what I would have done for the top 25 players on the list. You can find it on my Twitter if you want. Do you agree with let's start off with the top three, like for the three highest rated players in the game: Will Johnson, Will Campbell, Ollie Gordon. Are those the top three highest rated players in your opinion, or do you think there should be someone else that joins the top three list?
As far as those three separate, I think you could argue Pierce. I think Mason Graham might actually be number one for me.
Interesting.
Just because he's just, I've told you before, I think you mentioned Quinnen Williams in that 99 club. By the end of the year, Mason Graham could have a Quinnen Williams type of year and join that club. That's a guy where, and I know some of these are ties when we're talking about seven or eight guys at 95 overall here, so it's really microscopically close. But Mason Graham could be the number one guy in this list by the end of it. But no, I think that top three is completely reasonable. You're talking about the Doak Walker winner, the top tackle in the country, and the best corner in the country. Like, it's hard to argue. I wouldn't really say that they shouldn't be, more so that next like seven or eight guys. And even when you look down at the 94s and Luther Burden and Ben Morrison and Banks and McMillan, that's a stacked group, man. I mean, even those guys could, they have, by the end of the year, we could be saying about Burden or McMillan, that's like the best player in the country, whoever wins the Biletnikoff. Or even we've talked about Ben Morrison in coverage is just as good as Will Johnson. I think it's really more about the physicality and the run defense. So, I mean, you've got, I think you might not have the superstar power that you had last year with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Marvin Harrison, but I think there's a lot of really good depth, and I think what you're going to see that reflect in next year's draft when you've got a bunch of guys in the top 20 who are all of pretty similar talent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so I actually, I'm not even, I thought they're going to do this, and I would have done it as well. I think Travis Hunter should be at least tied for the highest rated player in the game with how special he is offensively and defensively. That's the one that I was like, 6 overall. It's still very, very high, still 95 overall. He's only one away from the top rated players. But my top 10 personally would have been Travis Hunter, Ollie Gordon, Will Johnson, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, James Pierce Jr., Caleb Downs, Kelvin Banks Jr., Quinshon Judkins, and Benjamin Morrison would have been my personal top 10. So, yeah, man, I think the Hunter two-way versatility is so special that I think you can make a very good argument. I might even make the argument that he is the best player in college football for the fact that he could be a first-round player at either corner or receiver. You just never see that, man. So for how unique he is, I think Travis Hunter deserves to be at least tied for the highest-rated player. But like I said, he's one overall away from them, so it's not like it's too egregious.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Where are you at? I just filtered the quarterbacks here, and I see this. You have a clear top 4 of Sanders, Beck, Ewers, and Gabriel, and then a pretty steep drop off to the next 4, which are Milroe, Dart, Daniels, and Salter. Are you in on there being that big a gap between the top 4, those top 4 guys, or should maybe Milroe and Dart especially be closer to them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the top 3 is pretty clear. Also, I want to give this a shout out to EA on this. Donovan Edwards and Quinn Ewers were not as high as I thought they're going to be. I thought they're going to make the cover athletes like super high. Edwards is like barely a top 50 player, and I don't think Ewers is in the top 20. So kudos to them, man, because I think they're very good players, don't get me wrong, but I was worried they're going to make them like super overpowered and not actually how good they actually are. So the fact that I thought there's a chance Quinn Ewers would be the highest rated quarterback in the game, honestly. So the fact that he's not, kudos to EA. And don't get me wrong, I do love Quinn Ewers. I'm not trying to bash on the kid, but I think it's really, really, I was surprised, honestly, that the 2 cover athletes were not 95 plus overall like I thought they were going to be. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I would do. I'd probably put Beck, Shador, and Gabriel as right in like that tier. I probably put Beck above them all, but and then after that I'd have maybe like a little bit of a drop between them and then Milroe, Ewers, Dart, guys like that, honestly.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I mean, I think Beck and Shador, I think for college production, Gabriel's going to do great. The NFL prospects are a little different. You have to separate that part. But yeah, no, those guys, I think Quinn, it still feels like this thing of like, just prove to me a little bit more. Now I get it. Look, he had a great year last year when you really look at it. Got him to the Final Four. Now you just got to. It's really more with this year, Quinn. It's not really about him so much as gelling with the new crew of receivers, right? So that's really going to be one of the biggest stories in the SEC, if not the whole country. It's just how do all those new pieces in Texas fit in around Quinn, right? But no, that's a fun one, and just again, I think we're going to be doing it a lot this year for me. When you look at this is the year of like the running back renaissance. We've got 14 running backs in the top 100, Max. I mean, I think last year you may have only had 6 or 7. I don't remember what we had in our postseason top 100, how many backs that we had, but I don't think it was 14. I mean, this is a stacked group. I think next year's class is going to be really exciting when it comes to these backs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's what we got for the top 100 players in EA College Football 25. Dalton and I are actually hopefully be doing a list of our top 50 players in the country, so we can compare that to this list later on in August. But let us know in the comments below what you think about the top 100 players in EA College Football 25. Who's too high? Who's too low? What would your top 10 be? What would your top 5 be? Let us know in the comments below. So we'll see you guys next time.